The penalty kicks are being taken. Julian Alvarez steps up, he misses. Alexander Sørloth steps up, he misses too. And just like that, Real Sociedad score 3 from 4 and Atletico Madrid lose the Copa del Rey final on penalties. The trophy is gone. The domestic season is over for Diego Simeone's side. They are already out of the La Liga title race and now the cup is gone too. At the exact same moment, 1,000 kilometres away in Manchester, Arsenal are walking off the pitch at the Etihad Stadium after a 2-1 defeat to Manchester City. Back-to-back Premier League losses, Bournemouth at home the week before, now City away. The gap at the top of the table has closed to 3 points. Manchester City have a game in hand. The title Arsenal have chased for over 20 years is now hanging by the thinnest possible thread. 2 results, 1 weekend. And everything Arsenal have built this season is suddenly under the most intense pressure imaginable. Bukayo Saka is still not training. Jurrien Timber is still not ready. Riccardo Calafiori is a serious doubt. Mikel Merino has no confirmed return date. Arsenal are going into the biggest stretch of their season with 4 key players unavailable. And the Champions League semi-final first leg against Atletico Madrid at the Metropolitano Stadium is now just 9 days away. On April 29th, Atletico Madrid, the same club Arsenal are about to face in Europe, the same club that just lost the Copa del Rey final, the same club that now has absolutely nothing left to play for in Spain. No league, no cup. Just one last chance at silverware this season, and that chance has a name. It is called the Champions League, and Arsenal are standing directly in their path. Simeone was asked about Arsenal hours after the penalty shootout defeat. He did not deflect. He did not hide behind the pain of the cup loss. He said simply, "The way we competed gives me peace of mind." That is not the language of a broken manager. That is the language of a man who is already refocusing, already locking in, already thinking about what comes next. And what comes next is Arsenal. This is not a quiet moment in the season. This is not a difficult patch that passes quietly. This is the moment where Arsenal either hold their nerve and deliver something historic, or the season slips through their fingers in the space of a few weeks. The Premier League title, the Champions League semi-final, the injury crisis, the growing noise around the manager, the summer transfer plans already taking shape. Everything is happening at once. And the only question that matters right now is this: are Arsenal strong enough to handle all of it at the same time? That is exactly what we are going to break down today. All of it. Every confirmed fact, every credible report, every reaction from inside and outside the club. Stay with me, because this one is going to matter. Let us start right there in the middle of it all. The Manchester City defeat and what it means for the title race. Manchester City beat Arsenal 2-1. That is the confirmed result. And the conversation that followed has been loud, emotional, and in some cases quite extreme. But before we react emotionally, let us look at the facts clearly. The first thing to understand is what was actually said after this game. Mikel Arteta, Arsenal's manager, spoke directly about the performance and the result. His message was clear. He said Arsenal came to the Etihad Stadium to win. He said the game plan was prepared days in advance and that the players executed it. He acknowledged that Arsenal started the game a goal down and had to deal with that psychologically, and he confirmed that Arsenal did deal with it. They competed, they pushed back. But then he said something very important. He said the difference in the game came down to what happened in both penalty boxes. That is the honest assessment from the manager himself. Arsenal were competitive, but not clinical enough at either end of the pitch, and that is what decided the match. Now, Martin Odegaard, the Arsenal captain, spoke after the game as well. His message to the dressing room and to the public was one of unity. He said the message was simple: keep going, keep working hard, stick together, look forward to the next game and bounce back. That is the tone from inside the dressing room. There is no panic from the players. There is no sense that anyone has given up. The message is controlled and determined. So why is there so much noise outside the club? Here is where things become genuinely important for Arsenal fans to understand. Manchester City have now closed the gap to 3 points and City have a game in hand. That means if both teams win every remaining match, the title would go to the final day and potentially be decided by goal difference. The margin right now on goal difference is just 1 goal, and if goal difference is level, it would come down to goals scored, where the gap is just 2 goals. And if that is still level, the head-to-head record between the two clubs would decide the championship. On that measure, Manchester City currently have the advantage. That is the brutal reality of where the title race stands. Arsenal are still in it, but the margin for error is almost 0. Every single remaining Premier League game matters enormously. Now, before we go further, if you are watching this and you want this kind of detailed, calm and honest analysis every single time something major happens at Arsenal, then please hit that subscribe button right now. This channel, Melissa Arsenal Analyst, exists to give you the full picture, the facts, the context and the analysis without the panic and without the noise. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. What the pundits said and who is right. Now let us go through what the analysts and former players have been saying, because there are very different views here and they are all worth examining. Alan Shearer made a point that I think is genuinely important. He said that Arsenal's defeat to Bournemouth at the Emirates Stadium the previous weekend is the result that will cost Arsenal the Premier League title, not the loss to Manchester City. He was very clear about this. He said Arsenal's performance against Bournemouth was flat, lacking energy and simply not good enough. Then he watched Arsenal play at the Etihad and said that performance was actually very good. He said Arsenal created chances, they competed with intensity and they played forward-thinking football. He mentioned specifically a 1-versus-1 opportunity that Kai Havertz missed and a header from Havertz late in the game that also did not go in. Shearer was honest in saying that the Manchester City performance gave him no major complaints about Arsenal's effort or approach. His frustration was directed entirely at the Bournemouth result. That is a fair analysis. When you have consecutive defeats in a title race, you need to understand which one was the performance failure and which one was just an unlucky result in a tough game. Shearer's assessment separates those two things clearly. Gary Neville offered a different angle. He focused on the fullback situation and said Arsenal were hampered enormously by their fullback options on the day. He acknowledged that the players who filled in, Piero Hincapié and Christian Mosquera, did their jobs and stuck to the defensive task well. But he was honest in saying that those two players are centre-backs by trade, not natural fullbacks, and that shows on the ball. He compared them to what Matheus Nunes and Nico O'Reilly provided for Manchester City and said the difference in quality when building from the back was significant. He said losing Jurrien Timber in particular was a major blow because Timber is a powerful, technically reliable player who links play from deep to the front line effectively. Neville was careful to say he was not criticising Hincapié or Mosquera personally, but simply acknowledging their limitations in that specific role. He also said he was not going to criticise the absence of Bukayo Saka because injuries happen to every player at every club. Troy Deeney went further than Neville. He said Arsenal have themselves to blame and he named 6 players he believed did not perform to the expected level. He named Noni Madueke, Martin Zubamendi, Martin Odegaard, Christian Mosquera, Piero Hincapié and Declan Rice as players who, in his assessment, did not turn up on the day. He made clear that you can respect how good Manchester City are while also holding Arsenal's players accountable for their own performance levels. He said when that many players fail to reach their standard at the same time, it is a serious problem. Roy Keane took a more positive view. He said Arsenal can still win the Premier League despite this defeat. He acknowledged the gap and Manchester City's game in hand, but insisted the race is still open. He said Arsenal were competitive in the match itself and that they still have a strong chance to end their title drought. Keane has been saying Arsenal will win the title and he has not moved from that position. Wayne Rooney went even further than Keane. Rooney appeared on Match of the Day and said he believes Arsenal will win the league. He predicted Arsenal will finish with 85 points compared to Manchester City's 83 points. He said Arsenal's remaining fixtures look favourable and that the key factor now is fan support. He was actually quite critical of Arsenal supporters who booed the team after the Bournemouth defeat. He said Arsenal fans need to be better. He said the players have worked incredibly hard all season and have hit a short run of poor form. He said booing players off the pitch in that moment can damage players psychologically and that Arsenal fans need to understand their role in helping the team get over the line. And then there is Opta Analyst Supercomputer, which still gives Arsenal a 73% chance of winning the Premier League title. That is the statistical model after the Manchester City defeat, 73%. So while the narrative outside the club is full of doom and gloom, the numbers still point towards Arsenal as favourites. Gary Neville's extreme statement and what to make of it. Now, I want to address something that caused a significant reaction. Gary Neville said that if Mikel Arteta ends this season without a trophy, then Arteta should be sacked. He said he cannot believe he thought earlier in the season that the title was Arsenal's. He called the pattern of near misses all too familiar and said fans have every right to feel frustrated. That is a strong statement and it is important to look at it carefully. Neville is not saying Arsenal are playing badly. He is not saying Arteta has lost the dressing room. He is making an argument about trophies and timelines. His point is that a manager of Arteta's quality working with this level of squad investment should be delivering silverware by now. The reality is that Arsenal are still in 2 competitions this season. They are still alive in the Premier League title race with a 73% probability of winning it, according to the supercomputer. and they are in the Champions League semi-finals, facing Atletico Madrid with the possibility of reaching the final. So the season is absolutely not over. The trophy opportunities are very real and still within Arsenal's reach. Atletico Madrid and the Champions League semi-final. Let us now turn to the Champions League because this is enormous. Arsenal will face Atletico Madrid in the semi-finals. The first leg is scheduled for Wednesday, the 29th of April at the Metropolitano Stadium in Madrid. The second leg will take place the following Tuesday at the Emirates Stadium in North London. Now, what is the condition of Atletico Madrid heading into this tie? The situation is that Atletico just suffered a painful Copa del Rey final defeat on penalties against Real Sociedad. That is a confirmed result. It was a heartbreaking loss for Diego Simeone's side. Atletico had beaten Barcelona across 2 legs to reach the final, which shows their capability and their level. But in the final, Real Sociedad scored inside 15 seconds of the match through Ander Barrenetxea. Atletico recovered through a goal from Ademola Lookman to level the score. Then Mikel Oyarzabal put Sociedad back in front just before half-time. A late Jurrien Alvarez strike brought it back to 2 goals apiece and took the game to extra time. No goals were scored in extra time. In the penalty shootout, both Alexander Sørloth and Jurrien Alvarez missed their spot kicks. Real Sociedad scored 3 of their 4 penalties and won the domestic cup trophy. Now, Simeone was asked directly about Arsenal after this defeat. His response was honest. He said he was not thinking about Arsenal. He said the Copa del Rey final defeat hurt enormously and that he needed time with his players before turning his attention to Europe. He said the way Atletico competed in that final gave him peace of mind about their quality and their spirit. Now think about what that means for Arsenal. Atletico Madrid arrived at that final as favourites. They lost. They are now completely out of the La Liga title race. The Champions League is the only remaining route to a trophy this season for them. That means Diego Simeone's side will arrive in this semi-final absolutely desperate, emotionally charged and with everything to play for. There is no secondary competition to protect them from risk. The Champions League is everything for Atletico at this point. It is also worth noting that Arsenal have already beaten Atletico Madrid in the league stage of this Champions League campaign. That is a confirmed fact. Arsenal also beat Bayern Munich in the league stage this season. However, Arsenal were beaten by Paris Saint-Germain last season in the semi-finals, and it was Paris Saint-Germain who went on to win the Champions League that year. So Arsenal know what it feels like to fall at this stage, and they know what quality the eventual winners possess. This season's other semi-final sees Bayern Munich face Paris Saint-Germain. Bayern beat Real Madrid in the quarter-finals. Paris Saint-Germain beat Liverpool in the quarter-finals. Paris Saint-Germain, under Luis Enrique, have also defeated English sides Aston Villa and Chelsea in European competition over the last year and a half. So if Arsenal do get past Atletico, they would likely face the defending champions in the final. Now, something else happened around the Atletico semi-final build-up that is worth noting. A quote appeared attributed to Diego Simeone praising Mikel Arteta, with the words suggesting that Arteta would surely lead Arsenal to win the titles they desperately seek. There was also a separate quote attributed to Simeone in which, when asked for advice to Arteta, he said the best advice is simply what Arteta has already been doing, which is maintaining the same identity from the very beginning. These are comments that reflect a level of professional respect between 2 managers preparing to go head-to-head in a massive European tie. The injury situation, the injury picture at Arsenal right now is significant and needs to be understood clearly. Bukayo Saka remains out with an Achilles issue and is not yet back in full training. His potential return date is listed as April 25th against Newcastle United, but that date comes with a Red Cross indicator suggesting it is unlikely he will be available for that match. Jurrien Timber is recovering from an ankle injury. He is described as getting closer, but not yet ready. His potential return is also listed as April 25th against Newcastle, with a cautious indicator suggesting it is uncertain. Riccardo Calafiori remains a doubt after missing recent matches. He is also potentially in contention for the Newcastle game, but his availability is far from confirmed. Mikel Merino is making good progress after foot surgery and is aiming to return before the end of the season. His return date is listed as unknown. So the picture is that Arsenal are short of key players at the most critical point of the season. The absence of Saka and Timber in particular has already been highlighted as a major factor in the Manchester City defeat. And with the Atletico Madrid first leg just days away on April 29th, the timing of these recoveries is absolutely crucial. Transfer rumours and summer plans. Now let us turn to the transfer window because there is a significant amount of activity swirling around Arsenal already. Even though we are still in the middle of the current season, I want to be very clear for every item in this section that these are rumours and reported interest only. Nothing has been confirmed. Nothing has been agreed, but the information is worth examining carefully because it tells us the direction Arsenal are planning to move in. The most prominent name in the transfer discussions is Julian Alvarez. He is currently a striker at Atletico Madrid. Reports indicate that Arsenal have already communicated their intentions to his camp, specifically assuring him that he would be used centrally as a number 9 rather than being deployed wide across the forward line. That positioning guarantee is described as important to his decision-making. The reports also indicate that Arsenal are prepared to sell Kai Havertz to help fund this deal and to create space in the squad for Alvarez to take a central role. Bayern Munich are described as being receptive to bringing Havertz back to German football, specifically to strengthen their number 10 position. Now, Andy Townsend has offered his assessment of the reported Alvarez move and is not straightforward praise. Townsend said that Alvarez is clearly a clever footballer and a good finisher who made a real difference when coming off the bench for Manchester City in previous seasons. But he questioned whether Alvarez has what it takes to be the starting striker in the Premier League for a team like Arsenal, specifically against sides that set up deep and try to deny Arsenal space. He said he does not quite see that. That is a legitimate concern and one that Arsenal's recruitment team would presumably have analysed in detail. There is also reported interest in Andrea Cambiaso, the 26-year-old defender currently at Juventus. Arsenal have started preliminary conversations over a potential move. Juventus value him at approximately €60 million. Arsenal are reportedly willing to offer at least €40 million. The suggestion is that Juventus may be more open to selling if they fail to qualify for the Champions League next season, which would significantly affect their financial position. Another name that has emerged is Ederson, the 26-year-old midfielder currently at Atalanta. David Ornstein has indicated that this is a transfer that could move quickly in the summer window. Suitors believe he can be acquired for around €40 million, while Atalanta are hoping for closer to €50 million. Arsenal are among the clubs with confirmed interest alongside Atletico Madrid and Manchester United. Arsenal are also described as strong contenders to sign 20-year-old Freiburg midfielder Johan Manzambi. This is described as a potential two-club race, with Real Madrid also in the picture for the Swiss talent. There is also a report that both Arsenal and Chelsea are monitoring Tottenham Hotspur midfielder Lucas Bergvall, who is 20 years old. Tottenham currently consider him unsellable and a key part of their future planning. However, uncertainty around Tottenham's Premier League status, with the club facing a potential relegation situation, could force their hand and open the door to offers from interested clubs. Finally, there is a significant report linking Paris Saint-Germain with interest in Arsenal winger Gabriel Martinelli. The suggestion is that PSG are exploring Martinelli as a potential replacement for Bradley Barcola, who could leave the French club if he does not agree a new contract. Martinelli's reported price tag is around £50 million. Arsenal are described as set to make changes in attack next season, which is why his availability is being discussed. Now, to be absolutely clear, every single one of these transfer items is at the rumour and interest stage. No deal is confirmed, no contract has been signed, no transfer fee has been agreed. But taken together, these reports paint a picture of a club actively planning a significant squad overhaul in the summer. The bigger picture and what this all means. Let us now step back and look at everything together, because when you lay it all out, the narrative becomes very clear. Arsenal are a club at a genuine turning point. They are 3 points behind Manchester City in the Premier League with a game in hand against City. They are in the Champions League semi-finals for the first time in what feels like a generation. They have a manager who has rebuilt this club from the ground up, created a genuine title-challenging team and delivered consistent Champions League football. But there is undeniable pressure building. 2 consecutive Premier League defeats, the Bournemouth loss and the Manchester City loss, have shifted momentum. Key players are injured at the worst possible time. The squad is being stretched and the football world is watching to see how Arsenal and Arteta respond. The statistical reality is that Arsenal still have a 73% chance of winning the Premier League. That number is significant. It means the supercomputer still believes Arsenal are more likely than not to lift the trophy. But probability is not destiny. Arsenal must win games. They must manage their injuries carefully. They must get Saka and Timber back in time for the Atletico Madrid tie or find a way to cope without them. The Champions League represents a separate but equally important opportunity. Atletico Madrid are a wounded but dangerous opponent. They have nothing left to play for domestically. They will arrive at the Metropolitano on April 29th with everything directed at this European run. Simeone builds teams that are resilient, organised and lethal on the counter-attack. Arsenal will need to be at their very best to handle what Atletico will bring. And then there are the transfer plans, the reported departures of Havertz and potentially Martinelli. combined with the reported pursuit of Alvarez, Cambiaso, Ederson, Manzambi and Bergvall, suggests that Arsenal's leadership is already planning for the next phase of squad building. The club is not standing still. The ambition is clear. Closing analysis. So where does that leave us? Let me give you the honest summary. Arsenal are still fighting on two fronts. The Premier League title is within reach but requires perfection from here. The Champions League semi-final against Atletico Madrid is a genuine opportunity to reach a European final for the first time in over 20 years. The dressing room message from Odegaard is the right one. Keep going, stick together, bounce back. That is the only mentality that gives Arsenal a chance. The injury situation is a real concern and needs monitoring every day between now and the Atletico first leg on April 29th. The transfer rumours point to a major summer rebuild, but none of it is confirmed and none of it affects what needs to happen on the pitch right now. And the public debate around Arteta, whether he should be sacked, whether he is good enough, whether this pattern of near misses is acceptable, that debate is going to get louder if results do not improve. But right now, Arsenal is still in the title race and still in Europe. The season is not over. The evidence suggests this club has more than enough quality to deliver something historic before the campaign ends. That is the analysis. That is the full picture. Thank you for watching, Melissa, Arsenal analyst. If you found this valuable, please subscribe and share this video with other Arsenal fans who want calm, honest and detailed analysis without the noise. I will see you in the next one.